Hi there, welcome to live stream Yoga with Louise, tips and cues to keep you safe and strong on the mat. Today, I'd like you to enjoy some quality, guilt-free me time on the mat, feeding your body, feeding your mind. It should feel like devouring a bowl of zero-calorie ice cream, delicious, but without the guilt. As always, play where you're comfortable, modify where you need to, and feel comfortable to pause the stream or to perhaps ease your way into child pose at any time should you need to take a time out. You ready? Let's hit the mat. We're going to start off for today's class coming into a seated frame, preferably Sukhasana, just sitting comfortably cross-legged on your mat. Let's lead with the right leg in front of the left. Just find a comfortable seat. Make sure that your weight bearing is equal on both of your bum bones and that you're not leaning weight or more weight rather into one of the bones, beautifully centered through the pelvis, through the shoulders, and you're going to just relax your left hand, palm down on your left leg. We're going to use the right hand to begin with a little bit of breath work. We'll start off with sun-piercing breath, Surya Beda. You can either place your middle and index finger on the third eye, the Anya chakra, or you can tuck those two in. You're going to actively be using your thumb to control the opening and the closing of the right nostril, and you're going to use your ring finger to keep your left nostril closed. For this exercise, you're going to be inhaling exclusively through the right nostril. Close your left nostril. Take a big breath in through the right. Close the right nostril. Open and exhale left. Rinse and repeat. Close the left nostril. Big inhale through the right. Close it. Open and exhale left. Start getting into a gentle breathing rhythm of your own, and you could even elect to close the eyes and take your focus in. Exclusively inhaling through the right nostril and only exhaling through the left. If this feels good, you can add a little bit of retention of the breath. Let's say you're inhaling for a count of 3 through the right nostril. You're going to then close it, then nod your chin to your chest and retain your breath for, let's say, a slow count of 6. Then release the chin lock, open and exhale left for 6. So you're shooting for a 1 to 2 to 2 inhalation to retention to exhalation ratio. And if you find the 3 to 6 to 6 is too easy, maybe try 4 to 8 to 8 or 5 to 10 to 10. You could even work past that point, but at no stage should you be straining on the retention portion of the exercise or the exhalation portion of the exercise. Get into a steady rhythm of your own, setting the stage for your quality, guilt-free me time on the mat today. Once you've completed your last cycle of Surya Beda, you're going to relax the arms heavy at your side. Take a big breath in as you float the hands overhead. And on an active exhale, bring the hands down in active prayer, pushing into the palms so that you can feel your arms, chest, upper back, and shoulders. Rinse and repeat, just finding a steady rhythm of circling the arms overhead on an inhale and then bringing the hands down in active prayer on the exhale. Feeling centered, feeling present. Then as you come down after your last centering, you're going to gently place your right hand on the floor alongside you, maybe just fingertips gently connected to the mat. Then start making that whole limb heavy to the mat. So the wrist line becomes heavy, The elbow becomes heavy, the shoulder becomes heavy, almost as if you were trying to listen to the mat with your right ear. Then maybe arc and frame with the left hand, bringing it overhead and reaching with your fingertips as if you wanted to tap the wall on the opposite side of the room. Try to keep a sense of length through the trunk. Your elbow and your forearm on the drop down side doesn't need to reach the mat, but just make it as heavy as you can. Inhale, bring it back to center, and exhale to repeat on the other side. Start making that whole limb heavy. Think heavy wrist, heavy forearm, heavy elbow, heavy shoulder, ear coming down, arc and frame on the other side. Reach with your fingertips, trying to open up those little spaces between the ribs on the right side of the body. Inhale and gently peel back to center. Extend your right leg as if you were aiming for the corner of the mat and just tuck the sole of the left foot on the inseam of the right leg. Sit up nice and tall and bend at your elbows. Pretend that your hands are two spades and you're going to use those spades to dig in the dirt and lift it up. You're going to give me a few spade-like digs. Every time you dig into the dirt and lift up, you're going to try to get a little bit more release through the lower back. Use the movement dynamically to warm up the back. Then after your last one, you're going to dig deep and you're going to try to wrap around the foot. If you can't reach for the foot, maybe use a strap, or if you've got a block at hand, you can hook that over your foot. Pull the block into your foot, resist with the foot, and just fold forward. Don't overthink the first stretch. Just fold forward as far as you can, making your chest nice and heavy towards the top of your thighs, and breathing as deeply as you can into the back of your ribs. Keep belly to spine. Then gently peel up. Try to reach with your right hand for the under quadrant of your foot and tip the weight back just off your bum bone, trying to come into Heron Crouchasana. Find a little stretch here, binding from the inside of your foot. Then cross your left arm over your right. Try to hug that limb in a little bit tighter. And you could use the strap, holding on to either edge of the strap to effect that bind, if playing freestyle is not happening for you today. Then twist in the opposite direction. So opposite hand to foot, right fingertips coming to the floor behind you, just to prop your frame up nice and high. Come back to your cross wrist position, crossing at the wrists and holding to the undercarriage of your foot. Try to get as much extension up that leg as you can. And then from here, we'll bring it into a little preparatory rock the baby, Hindalasana. So you're going to start bending that limb. Take your left hand, reach for the right foot, just support the foot, maybe bracing around the ankle and the foot, or just holding around the outer quadrant of the foot. Support your knee with the right hand and just gently rock your baby. We're not coming into the full expression today. We're just using the rock to gently begin warming up the hip joint. We're going to use rock the baby to come into half a lotus frame, Ardha Padmasana. You're going to reach for that foot. You're going to tuck the left foot, or rather the right foot, on top of the left thigh, trying to bring the heel in as close to the hip bone as you can. You're going to place your right hand on the inside of your knee, and you're going to play with a gentle, almost butterfly flapping-like motion, pushing the knee down to the floor, then relaxing it back up, and just using the movement dynamically to open up a little bit more through the hip flexors and the groin. Don't force the knee down to the floor. Just move where your body is comfortable. So if coming all the way down to the floor is not an option for you, don't worry about it. Remember, this class is all about enjoying quality, guilt-free time. So don't add more pressure. Then give me a soft little fold, maybe connecting your fingertips to the mat, or maybe you're able to come down onto the forearms and just gently hold an almost sphinx-like position, pushing gently off the forearms, and then sinking your hip line back as if somebody was standing behind you and gently just pulling the hips back. Stay here for a few beats. Maybe keeping your gaze just softly down on the mat between your two thumb points. Breathe as deeply as you can into the back of your ribs and keep your belly button softly pulled in to center. From here, you're going to reach for a block as you set up a boat line. You're going to unbind the feet. You're going to tip the weight just off your tailbone. So I'll give you a side view. You're going to tip the weight just off your tailbone and you're going to rest the block on the top of your knees. You're going to open up into a little V shape, floating the block overhead and tapping back to your knees. You're holding more or less a tabletop boat line. So the knees and the feet are in a table line as you play with that little boat extension, opening up the body and then tapping back up. All right. Then tuck back into easy sit, this time leading with the left leg in front of the right. We're going to come back into our breath work, but this time we'll reverse the exercise and we'll play with Chandra Beda, moon-piercing breath. Same setup for the hands, except this time you're going to be inhaling only left and exhaling only right. Find your position. Close the right nostril. Inhale, left. Close it. Open and exhale right. Find a steady rhythm of inhaling and exhaling. And if that feels good, you can begin adding in the retention portion of the exercise. So inhale through the left. Then close it. Nod your chin to your chest. Retain the breath. When you're ready to come out of retention, lift the chin lock, open and exhale right. Maybe closing the eyes, taking your focus inward and playing at a 1 to 2 to 2 inhalation to retention to exhalation ratio. Find a steady rhythm. Make sure that you're not straining on the retention or the exhalation portion of the exercise. Now activating gently into the parasympathetic nervous system. Setting a calming tone for the remainder of our class. Once you've taken your last cycle of Chandra Beda, you're going to drop the arms at your side, palms are looking up to the ceiling. Keep that sense of length through the trunk. Take a big breath in as you float the hands overhead. Exhale and bring the arms down in active prayer. Make sure you're pushing into those palms. Feel your arms working, feel your chest working, feel your upper back working. Maybe giving me a nice little ujjayi exhalation as you come down in active prayer. Let's do one more, then we'll take it into that little side stretch. Arms are relaxed at your side, palms down. Start making your left arm heavy into the mat. So think of dropping down through the wrist line, the forearm, the elbow, the shoulder, the ear starts listening to the mat. Arc and frame, still trying to keep that sense of length through the trunk, but opening up through the ribs on the right side of the body. Then inhale and come to center and take the stretch to the other side, making the right arm heavy to the mat. Start thinking soft through the wrist, the forearm, the elbow, the shoulder, the ear, listening to the mat. Arc and frame on the left and open up on the left side of your rib cage this time. Keep belly to spine and keep looking for that sense of length in the trunk. Inhale and gently come back to center. Extend the left leg, aiming your foot for the corner of your mat. Tuck the sole of the right foot to the inseam of the left leg. Set up your little spade lines and begin digging. Digging into the dirt and then peeling back up. Almost a little serving tray arm as you play. Sync your movement to your breath. And then on your last iteration, see if you can use your momentum to wrap around the foot or perhaps to reach for your block and hook it around the foot And then hold your little forward fold, trying to breathe as deeply as you can into the back of your ribs, not overthinking the stretch, just enjoying it. Keep belly to spine. Breathe as deeply as you can into the back of your ribs. Give me a few more breaths here. And then you're going to think of setting up a heron line from here. Place your block one side. Reach from the inside of your foot to wrap around, either using your hand or your block. Tip the weight just off your tailbone. So you're almost coming into an L lean on the back. Finding your first heron line. And then crossing at the wrists to hold onto the undercarriage of the foot. You can softly start bending at the elbows, almost drawing that whole limb closer to your nose if you've got a little bit of extra give there. Then take your heron twist in the opposite direction, so you're holding opposite hand to foot. You're softly using the left fingertips to prop your frame up nice and tall. Keep belly to spine. Keep looking for that sense of length through the trunk. And then find your way into your preparatory rock the baby. Start bending that extended limb. Use your right hand to hold onto your left foot, maybe just around the outer quadrant of the foot, or maybe you're resting the ankle and the foot in your hand. Use your left hand to brace around the knee and the top of the shin, and just gently rock this limb like a baby. Use this rocking motion just to gently start opening up through the groin area. And then ease your way into, from Hindalasana, into your Ardha Padmasana, your half lotus line. Tucking that heel in as close to the perineum as you can. Use your left hand to just gently start finding that almost half a butterfly rocking motion. You can maybe rest your right fingertips on the floor behind you, just gently releasing and pushing down. Using the movement dynamically to find little nuances, little stretches, not only into the groin area, but you're also working the foot, the ankle joint, the shin. And when you're ready, find a soft little forward fold, finding your way gently down onto maybe just the fingertips. Maybe you're able to drop down into the forearms, finding an almost sphinx-like position, softly pushing off your forearms, keeping your gaze softly down between the two thumbs, and then pulling your hip line back so that you can feel that activation on the front leg. Give me a few gentle breaths here. You're going to find your way from here into that boat line. So gently reach for your block. Unbind your feet, tip the weight just off your tailbone, tap your block to your knees, and then begin opening and closing the body. Finding that little frame, so if you need a side view, tip the weight off your tailbone, opening and closing the body in your little active boat. Then gently from here, change your orientation on the mat, putting your block one side and finding your way to a 4-point kneeling frame on the mat. As you come into position, I'd like you to try inverting the hands today so that your fingertips are looking towards your knee line. If this is too uncomfortable for your forearms, you can give me fingertips facing the front of the mat. Otherwise, change it up a little bit today. You're going to come to cat-cow from this position. Inhale to prepare, taking your chin and your bum bones to the ceiling and hollowing out your back. And then on an exhale, hollow out your belly, round out your back as you find the cat. Start playing, inhaling for the cow portion, exhaling for the cat. And dealer's choice today, you can either play at a 1-to-1 inhalation to exhalation ratio, or if you want to mix it up, you can play at a 1-to-2 inhalation to exhalation ratio. Find your way into a neutral tabletop line and start walking your fingertips back towards your knee line, sitting back, bum to heel if you can. and ending with your hands as far away from your knees as you can comfortably manage to keep that whole palm still connected to the mat so that you're feeling quite an intense stretch into the carpal tunnel and the wrist area. Then release, come into a high sitting frame, Vajrasana, and just give me a little starburst through your fingertips, releasing from that stretch. You're going to find your way back into 4-point kneeling. Start with both sets of hands looking towards the top of your mat. Then bring your right arm out to the side of the room so that your fingertips are looking to the side of the room. Start tracing a circular pattern through the body, bumping the hips to the side, to the front, to the side, to the back. Keep belly to spine as you're playing with it. And trace a few in the opposite direction, maybe 5 traces or revolutions in each direction, clockwise and anti-clockwise, that is. Ease your way back to center. Let's thread the needle from here. Take a big breath in. Float your right arm up to the ceiling. On an active exhale, thread underneath your left armpit. Bring your right ear and side of the head to the floor. Either staying here with your hips and your knees aligned, or starting to think of forging an L shape through your arms. Keep your right arm where it is, but start floating or sliding the left arm towards the top end of the mat so that your hands resemble a little L frame. Either staying here in thread the needle, Sukhi Randasana, or starting to bleed, you'll thread the needle into child and bumping the weight back, sliding your hands back as you come, but trying to retain that L frame through the arms, reaching along through both sets of hands. Ease your way from here into child pose, and you can either keep the knees and the feet in parallel, or you can have the big toes touching if you prefer. Then give me a little release through the wrists by pointing your fingertips up towards the ceiling, anchoring more through your wrist, and then relaxing the whole palm to the mat. Play with that movement dynamically, lifting and lowering all 10 fingers off the mat, and then dropping them back down. Ease your way from here back into your 4-point kneeling frame. Invert your hands, so fingertips looking towards your knee line, and begin your cat-cow. Inhale to prepare, hollowing out your back as you find your cow. Exhaling to round out as you hollow out your belly and round out the back. In your cat, start moving dynamically between the two, playing with the breath pattern that works for you today. Chakravakasana, cat-cow. End in a neutral tabletop line and start creeping or walking your hands back towards your knee line as you settle into a modified Vajrasana. Sitting back on your heels, so you're thinking bum to heels. You're trying to have the arms as far away from your knees as you can while keeping the whole palm as connected to the mat as you can manage. Then peel up into a high seat and release through your wrists by giving me a little starburst with the fingertips. Ease your way from here back into 4-point kneeling. At first, all 10 fingers looking to the front of the mat, and then take your left hand, rotate it out to the side, and start giving me a little rotational trace through the body, maybe 5 big traces in one direction, and then mixing it up and tracing in the opposite direction. Maybe inhaling for half of your circle circumference and then gently exhaling for the other half. Come to stillness and let's thread the needle. Big breath in, float the left arm up. So you're almost making a T frame through the arms. Then on an active exhale, thread underneath your right armpit. Think hips softly stacking over your knees. And if this feels good, focus on your right arm and slide or creep it to the front of the mat so that you've more or less got an L frame between the two arms. Keep reaching along through both sets of fingertips. Keep belly to spine. Either stay here and thread the needle or think of sliding back through the bum and the arms, but try to keep that L frame as you sit back almost in a modified child. Then ease both arms into extension in front of you so that you're in a long extended child pose, and start finding that little release through the wrist line, floating your fingertips up towards the ceiling and then allowing them to softly bleed back down to the mat. While keeping your forehead gently connected to the mat, activating that third eye, your Anya chakra. Then take the hands a little bit wider, coming onto the tips of your fingers. You're going to step forward. If you need to, you can bring the hands off the mat to step forward and then reconnect the hands to the mat. Take them wide so that your fingertips are maybe just in front, just on the inside of your mat. You're going to lean forward into a little modified lunge line, and then you're going to take it into a hamstring stretch. Maybe whole foot connected to the mat, or you can peel the front toes off the mat as you come into the hamstring stretch. So you're leaning forward into a soft lunge line or Anyanya Asana, and then you're bumping the weight back into your bum and your heels, extending the front leg, finding a little hamstring stretch, Ardha Hanumanasana. Just play with it dynamically, starting to warm up that lead leg. Then take the front foot, heel toe it out so that it's out at about 45, maybe knife edge of the foot. Take your right palm to the inside of your right knee. You can keep spider fingertips or a flat hand on the left and just push that right knee away as you find a gentle lizard line. You could even give me a soft throwback, keeping that front foot knife edged with the knee softly flaring out. Play with your lizard line, either pushing the knee or throwing the arm back behind you. Now place both sets of hands on the floor and look at your front foot. Make sure that it's still at that 45-degree angle. We're going to come into a narrow plie line from here. Tuck the back toe under, bring the knee up off the floor. Step up so that you're in that narrow plie, both feet out at 45, and start softly bending and extending through the knees, preferably keeping your fingertips on the mat or maybe reaching for a block, placing it on the floor in front of you as you play with that soft plie, bend and extend through the legs. You could even hang in a tabletop line if the floor is really not your friend today. Then think of squaring up through the feet so they're right on the outer edge of the mat. Straighten through the legs and try to wrap your hands around the inside to maybe bleed around your ankles or maybe the calves, and just make your crown heavy to the floor. Try to keep the weight placement equal on the balls and the heels of your feet so that you really are feeling quite an intense stretch up the back chain of the legs, and just allow the blood to gently pool in your head. Then gently soften through the knees, place your spider fingertips on the mat and step your way back into a soft parallel child, arms long and extended in front. Just take a little stretch here. Pushing off your spider fingertips. Take the spider frame quite wide, so fingertips just on the inside of the outer edges of your mat. Then little lunge step forward. You can bring your hands off the mat if you needed to take that step forward. Find your little forward lunge. Make sure you've got knee over ankle as you lean forward, and then bump the weight back. Either whole front foot connected to the mat as you lean back, or maybe peeling the toes off the mat and bumping the weight further back behind your hip line as you come into the little hamstring stretch. Keep those spider fingertips on the mat and just play with the movement dynamically. And keeping your right hand where it is, take the left hand out of position, knife edge that front foot. Foot is out at 45. You're using your left palm to gently push the left knee away, or maybe you like to play with a little throwback, and you can either keep the right hand fingertips or you can fall onto the flat hand if you prefer. Just hold your little lizard stretch Keep belly to spine. From here, you're going to think about how to get yourself into a soft mini plie. Place both sets of hands on the mat. Look at your left foot. It should already be in the right position. Foot softly flared out at 45. Just connect the whole foot to the mat. Tuck the back toe under, bring the knee up off the floor and step wide on the right. Set up your mini plie, preferably fingertips on the mat as you gently bend and extend, or use your block or place your hands on your hip, coming into more of a tabletop line as you bend and extend through the legs. Then square up through the feet, fold forward, finding your narrow prasarita padottanasana as you feed the hands around from the inside to maybe wrap around the ankles or maybe the calves. Just pause here, trying to find that sweet spot of balancing between the balls and the heels of your feet with the back chain of your legs totally engaged. Don't lock out the knees though, just keep a sense of softness, but try to relax that little tension spot behind the knees. From here, place your fingertips on the mat and heel toe the feet in, coming into a comfortable samasthiti with your feet just stacking underneath your hips. Soften through the knees and ragdoll style peel up, restacking and realign your body as you find your way into mountain tadasana. Maybe bringing your hands to prayer. Just look for that sense of evenness for the body. So make sure your shoulders are stacked over your hips are stacked over your knees, and your knees are stacked over your ankles. All 10 toes looking to the front of the mat. We're going to find our way from mountain tadasana into warrior 2, virabhadrasana 2. Take a big breath in, and on an exhale, you're going to step the left leg back. You're going to windmill the arms open. You're going to open up the back foot more or less at 90. And then maybe try wiggling the front foot forward slightly. Make sure that you maintain knee over ankle. Try not to lean all of the weight forward. So think of trying to have the weight coming down evenly through your shoulders and your pelvis towards the floor so that your body is beautifully center aligned. Your palms are looking down. Watch that you're not dropping that back arm. And then keep your gaze steady over your front forefinger. Look for strength in that warrior position. Give me a few more breaths here. Trying to tap the wall in front of you and the wall behind you with your fingertips. And then we'll play with that warrior 2 line. Think of tucking the back toe under and giving me half a helicopter spin so that your face is now, so that you're now looking off the front of the mat and hold. Don't lean all the weight forward. So push the weight subtly back into the heel of the back leg, but keep the heel floating off the floor. Give me a few breaths here, trying to reach long through your fingertips. You're going to find your way from here into a triangle line. Anchor the back foot at 45 this time as you bring your arms back to your original start position. So now your back foot is angled in slightly at 45. You can give me a narrower stance if you need to. Straighten up both legs. Pretend somebody's tugging on your front arm, pulling you forward. Back hip pops out gently. Then begin hinging forward to maybe find placement softly on the top of your shin bones, or maybe fingertips or palms to the floor, making a nice T shape through your hands. And if the floor is not your friend today, you could perhaps take your block, play with it, play with the dimensions of the block, and find a prop position on the inside of your foot or your ankle line. See what works for you. Finding Utthita Trikonasana, open triangle. Then let's try to open up a little bit more through the ribs. Bring that top arm as close to your ear line as you can and try to forge a long line through the hip, the ribs, and the line of the arm. Stay here in your extended triangle, reaching with your fingertips to tap the wall in front of you, or come into rotation by crossing the arm over the opposite leg and twisting to the back of the room. Maybe placing your fingertips behind the leg, or wrapping your hand around the calf, or placing the block on the outside of your foot to support your revolved triangle. Parivrtta Trikonasana. Then you can either elect to stay here in your rotated triangle, or you can get a little playful and creative by coming into a twisted half moon. Soften through the front knee. Maybe place your fingertips on the mat in front of you. Launch off the back leg. Try to keep that sense of rotation through the trunk as you float the back leg up behind you, either keeping it more or less in a tabletop line or bending that floating back leg and reaching opposite hand to foot and coming into a little bind. Give me a few breaths here. In your twisted half moon, you're going to find your way from here into a tiptoe down dog. So unbind, place both hands on the floor, hands more or less shoulder width apart. Step back into the down dog frame, but come onto the tips of your toes today. So you're almost forging a triangle between the arms and the legs, and you're coming up as high on the toes as you can. Check that your feet are at least hip width distance apart. You're going to knife edge your feet, keeping that sense of height through the bum to the right, piking your top hip up towards the ceiling. You're going to open up the top arm to the ceiling, and you're going to thread from here in a modified piked plank line, side plank. You're going to thread maybe 5 times, just softly tucking underneath your armpit and then floating back into T. Then ease your way back into your tiptoe down dog position. Start softening the knees to the floor, but keep the toes tucked under. We're coming into a little toe breaker stretch here. We're going to softly start walking the weight back. Think bum to heels. Try to keep those toes tucked under, and then soften your forehead to the mat. Either both hands staying alongside your head for support, or if you feel good here on the third eye, you can reach back one hand at a time, trying to wrap around the under quadrant of your foot and just hold the stretch. So you're wrapping your hands around the underside of the foot, you're pulling the foot in towards your knee line, and at the same time you're pushing and resisting with the body. So you're trying to find a sense of opposition in the body. Your forehead is gently connecting to the floor, and you're pushing off that third eye spot. Finding a tight little bind here if you can. Alternatively, just come into a relaxed child, but keep the feet soft and relaxed in parallel, and just drape the arms alongside your body, weight resting on your third eye. Dealer's choice. Give me a few more breaths here, and then we'll repeat that little sequence on the other side. Gently bleed your way through 4-point kneeling. Step the left leg up so that it's between the two hands. Make sure you've got knee over ankle. You're going to find your warrior 2 position from here. You're going to open up your back leg to 90. Make sure you've got knee over ankle on the lead leg. Windmill your frame up. T-frame your arms. Make sure you're not leaning forward, so weight coming down evenly through the pelvis. Palms looking down to the mat with your gaze steady over the front forefinger. Take a few gentle breaths here, looking for strength in your warrior frame. And then play it up. Tuck your back toe under. Give me half a helicopter rotation so the toes of the back foot are tucked under and the heel is floating off the mat. But you're not leaning forward. You're pulling the weight slightly back into the heel of the back leg. Then think of finding your triangle from here. So as you come out of the helicopter line, you're going to drop the back foot at 45 now. Straighten up your lead leg, so both legs are straight. Somebody's tugging you forward, hinge forward, and set up your triangle. Maybe hand resting on your shin, maybe fingertips on the floor or on the block, or maybe you've managed to connect a flat hand. Set up your open triangle. Reach as long as you can through the top arm, so try not to lean heavily into the floor or your leg if you're touching the shin. Then extend your triangle, bringing the top arm closer towards your ear, looking for that long line through your hip, your ribs, and the line of the arm. And you can even subtly bring that back foot in closer if you need to, When you start rotating and crossing over the midline, maybe placing your fingertips or your whole palm on the outside of that lead leg as you rotate your triangle Parivarta Trikonasana. Give me a few gentle breaths here. Keep belly to spine as you're playing. Then you can either elect to stay here in your rotated triangle, or you can find your way into your twisted half moon. So maybe placing the fingertips on the floor in front of you. Launch the weight off your back leg. Try to keep that slight rotation through the trunk. Launch off. Find your balance. Floating that leg up, maybe into a tabletop line, or bending that back leg, reaching opposite hand to foot. Squaring up as best you can through the shoulders and the hips. Pause. Then think of trying to find your way from here into a down dog frame. Placing both hands on the mat, you can either keep spider fingertips on the mat, or you can give me a flat hand as you step back. Try to give me a high tiptoe position. So pushing off those heels, you're high on the toes. Check that your feet are hip width distance apart. We're going to find that high piked side plank. You're going to knife edge both feet to the left, keeping those hips piked as high as you can. Float your top arm up to the ceiling, then tuck underneath your armpit and float back into T. Trying to keep your bum piked as high as you can, getting a beautiful bit of work into the obliques. Maybe shoot for about 5 threads, and then ease your way back into your tiptoe down dog position. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Keep belly to spine. You're going to ease your way from here into your little toe breaker stretch. Drop the knees down to the floor, but try to keep the toes tucked under. Think of dropping your bum back towards your heels, and then soften through the arms as you connect your forehead to the mat. Then bleed back one hand at a time, reaching for the undercarriage of your foot, and find a tight little bind here. Pull up with your hands and resist with the feet. There's quite a lot of compression into the lower belly area, and if this feels uncomfortable for you, just come into a soft child, either keeping the feet in parallel or big toes together, knees apart, and just draping the arms at your side. So pick the frame that's working for you, and just take a couple of gentle breaths here. If you were in the tight little bind, you're going to relax the feet, drape the arms at your side, allow the big toes to float together, allow the knees to subtly just shift further apart, making a little bit more space for your torso, and come into a relaxed child or balasana pose. Just taking a couple of recovery breaths here. If you need to, if the pressure on your third eye is becoming too much, you can give me a little rock through. Rocking the weight temple to temple and moving through that little pressure point on your third eye. From here, you're going to think of finding your way into a seated frame of your choice to end off with a little bit of breath work today. Maybe coming into a soft kneeling-like frame in Vajrasana or Thunderbolt, with your knees together and your feet together, sitting back. If this doesn't feel quite comfortable for you, you can maybe open up the knees a little bit wider, take a block or a pillow for that matter, feed it through, and then find a comfortable sit back with the knees maybe a little bit further apart. If your knees are not happy in this position, maybe just choose a seated frame that works for you. We're going to end off with a little bit of breath work. I'm just going to change my orientation slightly on the mat. We're going to think of combining Surya Beda and Chandra Beda and work a little alternate nostril breathing pattern, Anulum Vilum. So you're going to relax your left hand. You can either give me palm down or palm up, and you're going to either take the middle and index finger, placing it on your third eye, or just tucking the fingers in and using the thumb to control the opening and the closing of your right nostril, and your ring finger to control the opening and the closing of your left nostril. Maybe closing the eyes and taking your focus in for this little exercise so that your focus is inward facing. Close your close your right nostril. Take a big breath in through the left. Close the left nostril. Open and exhale right. Then inhale right. Close it. Open and exhale left. If this feels good, add in the retention. So inhale through the one nostril. Then close it. Nod your chin to your chest. Retain your breath. When you're ready to release, undo the chin lock. Open and exhale through the opposite nostril. Inhale through that same nostril. Close it. Nod your chin to your chest. Retain your breath. Release the chin lock. Open and exhale through the other side. Close your eyes. Take your focus inward and work at a 1 to 2 to 2. Inhalation to retention to exhalation. So if you're inhaling for 3, you're going to retain your breath for 6 before you exhale for 6. And then build it up from there. Try a 4 to 8 to 8, a 5 to 10 to 10, or maybe even a 6 to 12 to 12. But don't strain on the retention or the exhalation portion of the exercise. Then maybe start bringing some visualization into your exercise. Every time you inhale right, think of connecting to your Pingala, your sun, or your male energy system in the body. Build up that heat energy. Every time you inhale through the left nostril, think of connecting to your Ida, your moon, or your feminine energy system, calming, restorative in nature. Find that steady rhythm that works for you. Close your eyes, take your focus inward. Enjoy this delicious me time that you have on the mat. Don't feel guilty about nourishing your body and your mind. When you've completed your last cycle of Anulum Vilum, just drop both hands to your lap, maybe palms up, maybe overlaying one hand on top of the other. If you a female, right hand on top of left hand on top of right. If you're male, dominant, right hand on top of left. Thumb tips gently touching. Relax the shoulders away from your ears and just take a couple of deep recovery breaths, allowing for a natural neutral spine, but a soft engagement of your belly center. Then close off your practice today by bringing your hands to prayer mudra in front of your heart, closing off your practice with a gentle namaste. Thank you so much for coming out and playing today. I do hope that you enjoyed today's class. Give me a thumbs up if you did enjoy. Remember to shoot your comments in the comments box below. Make sure that your notifications are on and be ready for Pilates on the mat tomorrow. Till then, keep it light.